We're diving straight into a massive structural paradox of the modern dual-income household. We've all been sold this very specific story about how wealth is built today, right? But for millions of families, the math just isn't mathing. Let's unpack exactly why working twice as hard might actually be the literal thing holding you back.
Let's picture a hypothetical couple. Say she's in marketing making 62 grand a year and he's in IT pulling in 71. Combined, we're talking about $133,000. Now that puts them squarely in the top 25% of American households. They did everything right. They got the degrees, merged their finances, bought a house. By all accounts, they should be absolutely crushing it, maxing out retirement accounts and feeling incredibly secure. And yet, they're exhausted, they're living paycheck to paycheck, and relying on high-interest credit cards just to cover a basic car repair. Does that sound a little too familiar?
Well, what we're looking at here is arguably the greatest financial bait and switch in modern history. See, basic math tells us that two incomes should mean double the wealth. I mean, if one person making $50,000 can support a family, two people making $50,000 each should have an extra 50 grand left over for savings and investments, right? But the reality is almost exactly the opposite. Instead of extreme security, we're seeing immense financial fragility and families just completely drowning in fixed costs.
This whole phenomenon actually has a name. It's called the two-income trap. It was identified back in 2003 by Elizabeth Warren, back when she was a Harvard bankruptcy law professor, and Amelia Warren Tyagi. They studied over 2,000 bankruptcies and found something totally counterintuitive. Families with two working parents weren't more secure. They were actually more likely to file for bankruptcy than single-income families. So this isn't some personal finance failure. It's a systemic trap, proving that doing exactly what the modern economy tells you to do can actually make you more likely to lose everything.
To really get this, let's rewind to 1970 and see how it builds. Back then, a single income bought the standard middle-class dream. One median salary got you a median-priced home, decent health care, a car, and you still had money left over for a family vacation. But here is the absolute most crucial part of that era. The second parent at home acted as the ultimate emergency insurance policy. If the main breadwinner lost their job or got sick, that second parent could just jump right into the workforce. They had a massive, built-in safety net.
Fast forward to today. The median household income in 2023 hit about $74,000 when adjusted for inflation. That means we're actually making significantly more money than our parents and grandparents did. But here's the catch. Today, over 60% of married couples with kids have both parents working. We've essentially taken that emergency backup plan from the 70s, smashed the glass, and activated it as our default everyday operating mode just to survive.
So incomes definitely went up, sure. But the mandatory fixed costs of just participating in the middle class have absolutely exploded. Median home prices literally doubled relative to inflation. Healthcare is up over 600%. Education skyrocketed by 1,200%. And childcare, which was barely even an expense in the 70s because someone was home, now averages over $11,000 a year per child. These skyrocketing fixed costs have silently swallowed every single dollar of that second worker's paycheck.
Okay, let's look at the brutal math of what really happens to a second income today. Imagine a household making $120,000, where one partner makes 70 grand and the other makes 50. Because of our progressive tax system, that second $50,000 gets hit at the highest marginal rate. So poof, there goes $18,000 right off the top. Then you need childcare. Let's say $15,000 for one kid. Gone. Add in the cost of a second commute, another car, insurance, and gas. There goes another 8 grand. The money literally vanishes before you even start living.
And that brings us to a brilliantly hidden cost of the modern grind that almost nobody talks about: exhaustion expenses. Look, when two parents are working full-time and commuting, nobody has the energy to cook a meal from scratch or clean the house after a 10-hour day. You're going to order delivery. You're going to surrender to the emergency Wednesday night pizza, or hire a house cleaner just to preserve your sanity. Those exhaustion expenses easily drain another $5,000 to $10,000 a year purely just to help you survive the week.
So when the dust finally settles on our mathematical breakdown, you take that $50,000 second income, subtract the taxes, the childcare, the commute, and those exhaustion expenses, and it realistically nets the household a jaw-dropping $2,000 for the entire year. Just let that sink in for a second. At a $50,000 gross, you get to keep $2,000.
When you break that $2 grand down, it means someone is spending 40 hours a week away from their kids, missing family dinners, and grinding through rush hour traffic, all to essentially work for just $1 single an hour. The big financial payoff for taking on that second job is almost completely an illusion.
And this is exactly where the psychological trap snaps shut. You see, the bank looks at your combined gross income of $120,000 and happily approves you for a $400,000 mortgage. And technically, yeah, you can afford it, but only if you operate at 100% capacity forever. You have absolutely zero margin for error. It's like a car running with no oil in the engine. Everything sounds and works beautifully right up until the exact moment it suddenly doesn't.
Because there's no backup plan left to activate. If either partner gets sick, gets laid off, or just completely burns out, the whole structure collapses. This total lack of financial margin is exactly why a 2019 Federal Reserve study found that nearly 40% of American adults couldn't even cover a $400 emergency expense without having to borrow it. Millions of dual-income families making solid money on paper are literally one blown transmission away from a total crisis.
So, how did we end up here? Well, it was a massive bidding war. When dual incomes became the norm, families suddenly had twice the purchasing power. And what did they do with it? They naturally wanted good public schools for their kids, so they used those double incomes to outbid each other for homes in those exact districts. Housing prices just skyrocketed right along with that new purchasing power, turning two incomes into the absolute baseline requirement just to play the game.
Now, you might be sitting there thinking, well, I can't just have my partner quit. We need both incomes to survive. And you know what? You're absolutely right. You do need both incomes to survive the lifestyle you've built right now. But there is a radical mindset shift that can actually help you buy back your freedom, even if both of you keep working. You have to start treating that second income as if it's entirely temporary.
This brings us to a really powerful strategy called the One Income Foundation. It works like this. Step 1. Intentionally structure your non-negotiable monthly expenses, your mortgage, your groceries, your utilities, so they can be covered by just one income. Step 2. Treat that entire second income as purely discretionary. And Step 3. Invest the difference to buy back your optionality. Doing this instantly restores that resilience and that built-in emergency backup plan our grandparents naturally had.
Now, let's be totally clear here. This requires some real, short-term sacrifice. It means actively choosing the modest mortgage instead of the maxed-out house you technically qualify for. It might mean sharing a car, or driving older vehicles instead of juggling 2 car loans. And let's be honest, mostly, it means actively resisting the intense social pressure to spend and keep up appearances like a traditional 2-income family.
But the payoff? It's absolutely staggering. Within a decade, the magic of compounding takes over. Every dollar you banked from that second income starts generating its own returns. You literally buy back your ability to take a career risk, handle a health crisis, or maybe even have one partner step back to just be with the kids. You finally acquire what you thought 2 incomes were going to give you in the first place: true flexibility and genuine financial security. Ultimately, you can earn your way out of a whole lot of problems, but you absolutely cannot earn your way out of a trap you don't even know you're in. Now that you've seen the actual mechanics behind the 2-income trap, the choice is really yours. Are you going to let your expanding expenses consume every single dollar of your combined income, or will you start building a foundation that buys back your options? Think about what you can do today to preserve your flexibility for tomorrow.